check out these drums. Believe it or not, what you're hearing isn't a real drum set. They're MIDI drums, programmed by hand. And with the 5 key tricks I'm about to show you, you're gonna be able to make your MIDI drums sound just as real. Let's get into it. To make your MIDI drums sound realistic, you can start by using multi-sample rotation. When a drummer plays, no 2 hits are exactly the same. They're all slightly different. And while you might not consciously hear the variation between hits, it adds a ton of life and depth to a drum performance. In contrast, some MIDI drum kits use just 1 sample per drum, so each snare, kick, and hi-hat sounds identical, and it can make your MIDI drums feel incredibly boring, lifeless, and robotic. A good MIDI drum kit will use multi-sample rotation. They'll have 3 to 5 samples for each drum hit, so no matter what you play, there will never be 2 identical samples played back to back. So before finalizing your drum parts, make sure your MIDI kit rotates the samples. All the kits that come stock in Logic have this feature, and it's becoming more and more common across digital drum kits. The number one thing you can do to make your MIDI drums sound realistic is to use high quality samples. This might require an investment, but it's well worth it. Steven Slate drums, Get Good drums, and Easy Drummer are all industry standards. Of these plugins, I've been most impressed with Easy Drummer because the samples in this software are absolutely incredible. Up to this point, I've been using Logic's stock East Bay kit, and it sounds pretty good. But when you compare it to Easy Drummer's Big Rock kit, the difference is huge. As you can see, high quality samples have a huge impact on how realistic your MIDI drums sound. So if you have the means to invest, it's absolutely worth it. And if you're serious about taking your music production to the next level, I highly recommend checking out Spare Bedroom Studio. It's my course where I break down all the essentials for creating pro quality recordings from home, even if you're working with a basic setup. So if you're looking to improve your sound and streamline your workflow, be sure to click the link in the description, watch the free training, and check out the program. Now, when you program MIDI drums by hand, everything's a bit too perfect. Each hit is exactly the same velocity, and they're perfectly on time. But real drummers don't play that way. Even the best drummers have natural variations in timing and velocity. So to make MIDI drums sound realistic, we need to humanize them. Most recording software has a humanize function, which adjusts the timing and velocity slightly to create those subtle differences. Inside of Logic, all you have to do is select your MIDI notes in the piano roll, go to Functions, MIDI Transform, and Humanize. On the left, we can adjust how much we want to nudge our MIDI notes away from the grid. I found that 20 works quite well. On the right, we can adjust how much dynamics it'll add to the MIDI notes. For this, 20 also works quite well. Here's a before and after, so you can hear the difference. It may seem subtle, but small changes like this can make a huge difference. Remember, real drummers don't play with machine-like precision, so your MIDI drums shouldn't either. So we've already made our drums sound a lot more lifelike, but now let's take them to the next level by adding realistic details. Drummers will naturally add small touches that you wouldn't think to program, and by incorporating them, you can bring a lot more authenticity to your MIDI drums. First up is grace notes. Grace notes are subtle, barely audible hits that add rhythm between the main beats. To show you what I mean, here's a basic beat without any grace notes. All we're adding is a quick roll between the kick and snare to give it a little bit more pizzazz. And then we're going to lower the velocity so they're barely noticeable. It's a super small detail, but listen to the difference that it makes. Another realistic detail you can add is hi-hat variation. Most drummers don't play the hi-hat with the same volume on every beat. They tend to hit the downbeats harder and the upbeats softer, creating a natural dynamic. So instead of going tss, 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 they go like tss, 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 tss. That's the difference. To add this to our MIDI drums, we can simply select the upbeat hi-hats and lower their velocity. Here's a quick before and after so you can hear the difference it makes. Accent notes could add even more realism. Drummers often accent specific beats, especially in the fills, to add energy and drive. For example, here's a basic drum roll. This drum roll sounds weird because it doesn't have any accents. To add them, all we need to do is select the hits that are on the downbeat, and we'll pull them up so they're accented with a rim shot. And we're going to turn down the velocity of the other notes to make the accent even sharper. To take it a step further, most drummers would also add a kick drum on those accents, so adding it also gives it a sense of realism. These small details make a big impact, bringing your MIDI drums to life with a natural, authentic feel that your listeners will appreciate. Real drum kits are recorded in real rooms, so to make your MIDI drums sound realistic, you'll need to add reverb and ambience. These rooms could be a large open room for a big rock vibe, or a small tighter room for a punchy, intimate vibe. Either way, these rooms add natural echo and reflection to the sound of the drums, something that MIDI drums often lack. Fortunately, adding room ambience is very easy. Inside of Logic, I can just add a Space Designer reverb, click the preset dropdown, small spaces, rooms, and realistic room. I've found that setting the wet level to around -18 decibels is perfect. Check out this before and after. So right now you're probably thinking, could I record a professional drum track with pencils? Well, I gave it a try recently in this video right here, and I still can't believe how well it worked. So be sure to check that out. Believe me, you don't want to miss it.